Ladies and gentlemen, welcome out today. And man, it's my pleasure today. We got Mr. Doug Bailey, a man who really needs no introduction in the house today. Mr. Doug, you've been retired now for a little while now. What you been up to?
I reckon somebody asked me when I retired, I said, well, what you gonna do now? I said, well, I've been working for 60 years.
Yeah.
Full time. Actually, a little longer than that, really. And I said, I think now, I'm gonna just kind of do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I've been at times fanatical about fishing, at times fanatical about hunting, and then when I worked, then I had a purebred Angus herd, which I have commercial cows as well. And I've heard the phrase, and I think that's probably accurate. Work ain't work if you really enjoy what you're doing. And I reckon, of course, I feel like the Lord gave me a vocation, which was the store business to make my living.
Right.
And then kind of the little side hustle, I guess you might say, was with cows. I really enjoyed the purebred side of it.
Got you.
And so that's kind of what I do. Then I accumulate a little rental property, and of course I don't know that that's a lot of fun, but
well,
it brings some money in, and it's like anything else. It's I've had the good times and bad times, but overall it's been good to me. And so I've kind of done that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think you've earned that little vacation period for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your cows. I didn't realize you were doing that on the side as well. What all you got going on there?
Actually, it's purebred Angus. I guess everybody wants to toot their own horn or whatever, but there's a lot of breeds out there. But Angus has really done I think an outstanding job of promoting their stuff, and you got it out there where you don't necessarily see that amongst other the breeds. You got the Angus beef that your supermarkets and stuff sell, and then it can get pretty intense, the purebred side of it, and it can be very lucrative, and it's but like I say, there's more work to that. But I'm just saying that was the part I enjoyed. I reckon I enjoyed when I was in it. At one time I started out, and I was up to like 87 mama cows that we actually done the AI and on, and I was able to put them in the test. It'll allow you to put 10 bulls in the Tifton test, 10 bulls in the Calhoun test, and what they do, they'd bring them in, they'd weigh them like every 28 days, and it was like a 112-day test. And so I reckon it was almost like kind of getting your report card. I reckon that was the part that kind of enthused me, and and it was they would bring you some decent money. We had I think the #1 Angus bull in the state in '06, I think.
Wow. Okay.
From as far as going through that particular test, there's the other ones has different tests as well. But anyway, I really enjoyed that part. So I'd gotten out of it as I had kind of gotten older and was a lot more work involved in them. And so once I've got the store, then I've kind of got back in it. So I'm just probably the main thing I do as far as work goes, I guess. And I enjoy kind of getting up, and looking at them, seeing about them. Now I'm situated and got them where I can send all my bulls to Kansas. I have done that in the past, and they would bring really good money out there. And for the people, they probably got the most elite herd in the world, probably at least in the United States. And so the guy that I kind of work through there out of Wadley, and he sends like 130 bulls out there a year. He's big into the embryo. He puts in like 350 embryos a year, but he's got a big time operation. So I'm just kind of playing really. So I reckon, like I say, that's kind of what I do. In my church, then gives me more time to be involved with church work or whatever. And so I just try to do whatever doors the Lord opens for me. I'd had a chance to go on a mission trip.
Awesome.
And I really thought that's what I wanted to do. And I don't know, the closer the time got, I was thinking about that flying and all.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I'm scared of flying, I guess, but I don't know. I guess kind of over the years with, with my, as you get older, which the Lord has told us, these bodies here ain't gonna last forever.
That's right.
And when you get up in the years, then so I thank the Lord my health is as good as it is, but in between my back, I guess, and my knees and my hip, and
I understand.
There's arthritis in general or whatever, then I've kind of gotten to be a diabetic and several other things. So anyway, but I enjoy being able to, I just think, Lord, I can do as much as I can do.
Hey, no doubt. You're doing a lot for sure, Mr.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you mentioned earlier, 60 years you were working 60 years. So, I know that's a good amount of time there, 60 years. Let's do a timeline, I guess. Okay, from when you started out working until I guess those 60 years was up.
And I'll try to be, you know, sometimes my wife would tell me, you get into too much detail. You don't need to say all that. And I just said, well, but I do want to just, like you said, to answer your question, when I said that, when I said really working, I guess when I was a junior in high school,
Okay.
there was a place out there where Curry's got his place out there. It was right across from the VA. There was a motel there then.
Gotcha.
I worked there 57 hours a week and went to school full time.
Yeah.
Wasn't no getting out early. And then my senior year, I worked 64 hours a week, 1 week, 57 the next. Went to school, worked from 4 to 12, worked 12 hours on Saturday, 12 hours on Sunday, got off every other Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Wow.
And so that was like about 57, 64. So then when I got into my full-time job, I moved to Augusta with a couple of friends of mine. And
Gotcha.
at that time, I'm graduated from high school now, okay? And the first job I got when I graduated was at a hardware store, 85 cents an hour. Back
Gotcha.
then, the minimum wage was $1, but a lot of folks didn't go by that.
Right.
And so I worked there for about a year, and then I had a chance to go to this cotton mill, and I was there, and I was making, they had moved me to $1, and then I got a chance to, they said, well, the cotton mill's higher, and they're paying $1 and 39 cents an hour. And I said, man, that sounds good. So they put me away at a cotton mill, and of course at this time I wasn't married, obviously. And
Sure.
So I worked there 2 nights, and about that, what I was doing, they put me in the weave room. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's weavers, and they just, I mean, they're so loud, you can get right up in somebody's ear and holler, and you can't hardly hear what they said.
Yeah.
And I worked there about 2.5 nights, and me and a friend of mine, the same guy that I lived with, I went and met him, and they had us, what I was doing was sweeping the floor with 2 brooms, going down these aisles, following them blooms. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I just can't take this. And so we left, and I went to the unemployment office, and they sent me to Winn-Dixie. And and they paid me. It was something. It was maybe something of maybe $1. And I thought, see, I got about a dime an hour raise. But I went to Winn-Dixie, and that's where I stayed for 19 years. And I was in the Augusta area. I worked in about 11 different stores. I think I made store manager. I was at the time I was made store manager. I had the biggest volume store in Augusta when I was 25, and I'm 77 now, so I'm talking 52 years ago.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, and stuff. I just think about now how much cheaper stuff was then.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I said I'd move there and then come back home and work here. Then they end up closing this store, and then they offered everybody a job in Atlanta. So, I mean, I had just gotten remarried and we had redone the house. But anyway, I didn't want to. So we just said we can't afford to move. It was going to be what's going to be just like a lateral transfer. We're going to get no promotion. We're going to get no demotion. Wherever they wanted me to go in Atlanta, they would pay me the same thing. I was thinking about keeping all the benefits. Had great benefits. 4 weeks vacation, and I think 19 paid holidays. Put $5,000 in my profit shares. Was making almost $12 an hour, and I'm thinking now, like 45 years ago, that was pretty good money.
Right. Sure.
And so anyway, we just I didn't know what I was going to do, and I had actually Gus had worked for me, the friendly Gus.
Right.
For 7 years, I was his boss.
Okay.
And actually, before they closed the store, I had started working for him, and I remember he was paying me like $4 an hour, but I was just doing that to kind of supplement income, which was about the deal to do back then, even though I was making good money with Winn-Dixie. So anyway, so when they closed the store, then he offered me a job. So I actually run the first Friendly Gus store that was in Dublin.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I stayed with him for 5 years. And when I left, then he had 6 stores, and he paid me like supervisor of 5 of them. And he paid me, like I say, he started out, and I think he started out paying me like $5 an hour, but then when I got to the end of it, he was paying me some really good money. Of course, I took all that Winn-Dixie experience and I kind of applied it to his stores, and his stores done real well. I don't say I took all the credit, but I love to think I deserve some of the credit.
I give you some
for knowing what I was doing, you know.
Right.
And because what I had done was much more complicated. I think
sure.
I had like 42 employees. So I run that Winn-Dixie store. Like I say, it was a high volume. It was doing $70,000 a week 52 years ago. That was a bunch of business back then. You know, when you had 39-cent sugar and 29-cent a pound for fried chicken, you know, and stuff like that. It took a lot of volume. But anyway, so I stayed with him 5 years, and I just kind of, then I had drifted from the Lord, and then I come back to the Lord, and I just began to pray and seek, you know, and people that kind of told me, they said, well, you know, hard as you work, you ought to be in business for yourself. And I guess you kind of got that fear of failure, you know what I'm saying?
Sure,
I said, well, I know I got this, and I know what I got coming in, I'm just scared to try.
Right.
And but anyway, after that, and I kept praying and looking like for 2 years, and I talked to Gus, and I said, well, you know, is there any way maybe you can just sell me a little 10% or a small part of it. He said, no, we don't really want to sell none of it. We pay you well, we're going to do good, and you're going to do good here. But, you know, we ain't interested in selling. So anyway, short of it, I just looked around at several different stores, got some appraisals on some stores. But anyway, I ended up with, when I felt like I said, I want to make that part clear. I've done a whole lot of praying about where to go and what to do. And I said, I know the Lord knows the future, and I don't, you know. And but so anyway, that's where he landed. And so we just, I finally told him, I said, well, I just feel like if I'm going to ever do it, I was 42 at the time. I said, if I'm going to ever do it, I need to do it now, you know, because I am getting too old. And so after praying and really giving a peace in my heart that I was doing what the Lord had me to do, then I just kind of, at first I was going to try to stay there and then hire somebody else to run it for me. You know what I mean? Then I was going to go up there after hours and the weekends or whatever I needed to do. It never allowed me, I was never have to miss church to go, even though we did stay open 7 days a week. And so anyway, I'm just saying, after we, like I said, began the store, I just said, you know, see, with the bank, they said, well, we'll loan you the money. But then I had inherited a little land. I had like 39 acres of land in my house, and I had some farm equipment stuff. They said, well, if we'll loan you the money if you put up everything you own. And I talked to my accountant. He said, man, I would love to have your business and all that, Butch Freeman. He said, but, you know, you do realize what will happen if you don't make it, don't you? And I said, yeah. He said, you'll lose everything you got. I said, that's right. I said, but I'm that convinced that that's what the Lord had me to do. But then I just said, then when the Lord kept me to make, you know, don't just trust me. Don't feel like you got to have that salary you got coming in and you're going to do all this extra. You step it out on faith. You step out on faith, and I'll honor that, and I'll bless you. And that's exactly what He's done. And it's just, and it really has. It's been very good to us. I know the very first year we was there, I made more money that year in 8 months than I'd ever made in my life, and then had the benefits, and it just went from there. We was there for 34 years, and I just said, so like I say, kind of, you know, at one time I had 2 stores, another one at the interstate out there for like 7 years. Gotcha. And so, but anyway, they ended up, we didn't buy that, and we were just leasing that, and he kind of wanted to take it back and remodel it. He had to, really. And so, anyway, we done that and just kept going. But anyway, it was, so that's kind of what we spent, that's kind of the 60-year deal. So, gotcha. And we had almost traded a year prior to that, and we kind of almost got, and I just said, well, this is what I got to have. And he said, well, this is what we can give, you know. And I said, well, you know, I think we're just too far apart, you know. And I just prayed and said, well, I just keep marching. I wanted to leave, but I just said, well, you know, I feel like I got to get somewhere close to what it's worth. I feel like it had been extremely good to us. For sure. They had the last couple of years that we was there, they were doing a $179 million project. They rebuilt the sawmill. Gotcha. They had like 250 construction workers when all this COVID hit and all that. And our competition, I reckon that's part of it. Maybe some other things kind of put them out of business. So the last year when we was there, a year and a half we was there, a little bit, all of that year and the previous year, I mean, we've just done extremely well. No doubt. And I just felt like it was time to one. I can tell this little kind of cute part I'd had. So we sat down to talk, you know, and I told them, I said, well, there's 2 things we need to talk about. And, you know, if you can honor that, then we'll move forward with the details. But if you can't do that, then we don't even need to talk. Right. And I said, you know, without getting into a lot of detail, I said, I know that I know that I know. If I've ever heard from the Lord, He told me to put that cross there, and He told me exactly how to do it. Yes, sir. And I said, it'll have to stay. For sure. And I said, and then we was working 13 people. And I said, you know, I hate to put my people out of a job, you know, really. And knowing they could find other jobs, and there was a lot of people looking for work. Right. He said, well, don't you worry. He said, of course, they're like, you know, they got 13 stores. A guy does now, Gus does now, the friend of Gus stores. Sir. Yes, sir. And he said, well, we'll hire everybody you got, and we'll pay them whatever you pay them. Awesome. I said, well, we'll just talk. And so that was kind of the 2 things that was really bearing on my mind, because and they said, so that kind of gave me a piece to let me know I was headed in the right direction, what the Lord had me to do. No doubt. So with that, you know, then we, you know, worked out the other details, and this was we've just been about exactly a year. Right. Wow. And but I really want to say this. I really started saying this little part. Then I had maybe which I've worked a lot of kin folks off and on. I had my son there, my granddaughter there, my grandson there. Of course. Worked a lot of family, but the first one, the lady that I talked to, I called up in the office, and she'd been with me I've been there 34 years. She'd probably been there 33 of them, you know.
Wow, yeah.
And she was actually about my age, you know, and I started to tell her what was going on, and looked like I kind of got choked up and couldn't talk, you know, and she would say, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He said, "What's it?" He said, "Everything's going to be all right." And I said, "Just give me a minute or two to get my composure, and maybe I can tell you, you know."
Yes, sir.
And so when I did, and I told her, I said, "Well, Nell," I said, "You know, there's 2 times that I feel like we cry. And that's when we're real happy and when we're real sad." And I'm real happy, you know.
Awesome.
And then I began to, you know, to tell about the fact. I said, "Well, look like we've got the store sold." And so, you know, like I say, but that was, I reckon it was kind of funny in a way, but he kept thinking, you know, they was about to tell her something bad, you know. And,
Right.
and I don't know, I think sometimes, you know, I see these guys, I know if you look at any of that or not, but I see these guys on the UFC, this cage fighting, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. No.
And I mean, them guys, I mean, that ain't just wrestling, they call it. I mean, this is the real deal. Them
They
guys
fighting.
get beat up.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be bloody as a stuck hog, you know, and they'll whoop somebody. And when they win, I mean, they fall all out in the store crying and just
Sure.
just the tears of joy, you know.
Yes,
And I
sir.
reckon that's kind of what I was feeling, you know, because
No
I just
doubt.
thought. I reckon, I said, "Lord," I reckon I looked around and seen all these people that looked like they was my age and a lot younger than me, done retired, been retired 10 years and
Right.
stuff like that. And I thought, well, Lord, when is that day going to come for me, you know? And so anyway, I felt like I went there when the Lord directed me to go, and I felt like I left. And that was good to us, and that, you know, so I was, you know, we wasn't total strangers with Friendly Gus. So like I said, I'd
Sure.
been with me and Gus had worked together all that time, and with God, you know, and his brothers and stuff, they've kind of took it now. And Gus, I think, had a picture. But he's kind of retired too, I suppose. But
sure.
Anyway, I probably said too much, but that's
No.
kind of my working career.
Awesome, Mr. Doug.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, we're sitting here talking with Mr. Doug Bailey. We'll take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with him. Y'all hang with us.
Hey, I'm Sam with Automax, your local repair shop. We're family owned and operated. Our mechanics are ASE certified, 100% satisfaction guaranteed service. We service all makes and models, foreign and domestic. So come see us at Automax, your complete auto repair. We also offer certified auto repairs, mufflers, brakes, engine repairs, diagnostic struts, suspensions, and a whole lot more. Come see us at Automax, 707 Kellum Road, Dublin, Georgia, or call us at 606-6868. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
I'm Heath Richter, and we just want to invite everybody to come on down to the Houston Clinic and check us out at our new facility. We've been in Dublin for a while now, obviously, but have a new office here, and we'd just like you to come down and see some of the new stuff we're offering. And if you need to get checked out, we'd be glad to do that for you. We've got able to do some ultrasound-guided injections now, and physical therapy, and just a little bit better space, so hopefully we can get you in and out of here a little bit quicker.
Come by and see us today at our brand new location, the Houston Clinic, Medical Drive in Dublin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sitting here still, of course, we got Mr. Doug Bailey in the house today, the man himself. And Mr. Doug, you know, you were talking, we've been talking, and you were talking how, you know, before you bought your first store, you know, lots of prayer into that, and how you were sure that, you know, that's where the Lord wanted you. And several times in your career where, you know, you knew that that's where the Lord wanted you. So, Mr. Doug, let's talk about, you know, your salvation and your walk with the Lord.
Sure. Okay, and again, I'll do my best to be as brief as I can without getting
Sure,
into a lot
I
of
understand,
unnecessary detail. But like I say, I wasn't raised in church at all. And like I said, I just wasn't. And I reckon way back, I know they had a revival out there at New Bethel. I'm in between Dexter and Dublin, about halfway. And I just remember maybe back then they baptized in the creek, and I was probably, I don't even know, 8 or 10 years old,
Yes,
but
sir.
for sure that wasn't no genuine experience. And but so anyway, like I said, so anyway, I had moved to Augusta. I was at Winn-Dixie at the time, and I was, matter of fact, I had been long made store manager, but
Gotcha.
so still wasn't, you know, didn't know the Lord, didn't live with the Lord at all.
Right.
But anyway, so I went through a divorce, and I just fell off the deep end. I ain't trying to I won't give the devil no unnecessary credit, but I certainly wasn't living for the Lord.
Right.
And so anyway, so me and her got back together, and shortly after that, we started to feel like, well, we were going to do a fresh start. We really need to start going to church. So of course,
Sure.
then we drank and partied, and of course I worked. I've always been a hard worker and
Yes,
provided
sir.
for myself, but then I just didn't live for the Lord. And so we decided that's what we needed to do. So we started going to church, and I was like 28 years old at the time. And So we joined the church. I'm genuine to believe. I ain't good on exact dates, but I know I was like 28 years old,
Gotcha.
whatever that year might have been.
Sure.
And so anyway, so I really did come to the Lord, and they said, so we got in there, and I said, we're going to do it. You know, I ain't going to do it halfway. I still got to go. And then they said, well, we have church on Sunday nights. You need to come on Sunday nights. Okay. And so then they said, well, how would you like to sing in the choir? And I said, I don't know nothing about no music. You ain't really got to know. That ain't important.
Right.
This church has probably had 300 members on a Sunday or something.
Gotcha.
So I started, I got very involved.
Awesome.
And so I felt like, then, like I said, man, I said, then they said, well, you really need to tithe your money. If you don't want to live it under a curse, you need to tithe your money.
Right.
And so we did that, and like I said, I was singing the choir, and then probably after about 6 months, they said, would you like to be our youth director? I said, well, I got this full-time job. It kind of requires a lot. They said, well, we can work around all that if you would just do that. And we got to a couple of them. So we had about 100 kids in the youth. And so I did that, and I really enjoyed it and done it. I reckon, I hadn't grown a lot spiritually to where, the devil was going to point out, well, you see the preacher over there, he's got this problem, and this song leader, he sure ain't perfect. And, the devil began to work on me, and I didn't really understand what was going on, to be honest. But anyway, the short of it, we just had several different things that happened, and I didn't miss a service. I went 100%, but I dropped out just like I got ill with some stuff. We had actually took some kids to Six Flags, and we had this old bus, and somebody said, well, they said, we got this new van, but we ain't lettered it or anything. Won't we just take that and let some of the parents drive? And some of them, that didn't want to, say, well, we ain't lettered it yet. Y'all just we had probably a 25-year-old bus, and so we all just take that. And so we did, and we got about 20 miles up the road. We was in Augusta, headed to Atlanta, and then I think it broke a fan belt or something. We got done that and got it worked out and got that done. And the time we got up there, then it was like 1 o'clock before we ever got there. We done left like 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. And so the kids, and they was just, they didn't behave. I was kind of disappointed at the way I saw some of the, because a lot of them kids, they was kind of going because they was parents of the deacons and some of the church leaders, and maybe a lot of them, they was kind of going to church because they had to. Didn't really know the Lord, But anyway, they kind of behaved worse than I thought, or than I was anticipating. Yes, and I reckon that kind of got on my nerve. Anyway, then they wanted to stay to 10 o'clock. And so as I had to go to work the next morning, like back at my regular job, that was when I took it on my day off. And so anyway, and then we got ready to leave and got out there, and then the water pump went out, and we was in a bad section of town there, and was able to get to us. It would get run hot, and so we got to the service station. But anyway, we called and the preacher and several different ones said, we stranded here, we need some help. And so they sent some folks up there and come guide us. But I don't know, I reckon with that was just like the final straw to me,
Yes,
and I quit just like I started.
Right.
And for 14 years, I didn't go to church.
Good.
And so then the Lord come to me a multitude of times, asking me, you need to come back. You ain't where you need to be. And he was real gentle, but I really want to tell this part because I think it's important. And actually when we came back, then like I said, I done drifted right back. I was just as far from the Lord as I'd ever been. We moved back down here and was living out there on our place. And then we went to the Moose Club every Saturday night and drank and partied and done all this stuff. And so my brother-in-law, he was 47 at the time. He had come down. We thought he had cancer. He didn't really know. But anyway, so my sister said, well, let's bring the family up, and they going to tell us what's going on. So we was in there and was talking and all, and then my brother-in-law, he made the comment. He said, well, all I know is, he says, if I got it, we can just all cry together. And he did. If I hadn't, said, we're going to get us a bottle and we're going to celebrate. And the Lord just prompted me. I just said, I said, Bud, I know I'm a fine one to be talking. I said, but the most important thing you can do is get yourself right with the Lord. And when I said that, it was just like a hush fell over the room. And it was maybe like a minute. Seemed like God's timing is perfect on everything.
No doubt.
And so my sister said, well, I wish everybody would, I won't offend nobody, but I wish everybody just leave. I'd rather, if he's going to tell us what's going on with him, I'd rather just be me and him, and then we'll let y'all know. I said, well, that's fine. So I went out, and I stepped on the elevator, started down the elevator, And then the Lord spoke to me again. He said, well, you know, you're so concerned about him, and you should be. How about you? You think you're where you need to be? And he just left it like that. And then, so then I had another occasion to where I ended up going through another divorce. And then I was real down and out and suicidal, really. And I sat there on my back porch and I said, well, you know, I said, that's it. I said, you know, I've kind of lost my family. Nothing really means anything.
Right.
I said, so I'm going to just kill myself. So I started to get up like that. And when I did, it's just like I felt two hands on my legs. He wouldn't let me get up. And if he's ever spoke to me, and he has, he said, I can't let you do it. I can't let you do it. That's just kind of what I heard in my spirit.
Yes, sir.
And so I just fell back, and then I, you know, went for, you know, another, probably, well, after, a little bit after that, I got married. And then me and her, then I started cleaning up all that stuff, but I still wasn't back with the Lord, you know. And so I had goats, had done accumulated goats. And a friend of mine that done my pond, and he said, well, you know, there's some goats down there. He had a place down there on 16, right in the area of Highway 19, right in there. Okay. And so he said, there's some goats is on my place down here, and if you can catch them, you can have them. And so I met him out there on a Sunday morning at Friendly Gus, about 10 o'clock that morning. We went down there and was coming back on the interstate, and I reckon I had my mind on them goats and wasn't thinking about the fact I was going so slow in that right lane, which was going like 20 miles an hour, because there was a creek right there, and we was looking. He said, "They've been coming down this creek," and so we was looking, and then all of a sudden I looked back in my mirror, and when I did, it looked like there was this big truck that was going to just cream me any minute. Again, a God thing. Yeah. And I got by that bridge, now, and you picture this, there's a steep embankment there. Yes, sir. And this was a tractor-trailer rig. He went down that embankment, jackknifed, and Lord just let us see it all. And he come up, and he had them tires. They were just spinning like that. And he went down that embankment, jackknifed, and pulled back up it. And then when I seen him about to hit me, then I just slung my wheel over, caught myself trying to get out of his way. And there was this car coming on the left. That thing, man, that thing got all sideways. Yes, went down into medium, but the short of it, he straightened it up. Ain't touched nobody. Ain't harmed the hair on my head. So that car, and he pulled that thing up all the way out of that jackknife and back on the road. And this guy that I had in there with me, he said, "Man, did you see the way he drove that truck?" Again, a God thing. Yep. I said, "No, we can give the Lord credit for that." And when I said that, the Lord said to me, "That's the last time I'm going to tell you." Now, that was that Sunday morning. And the next Sunday morning, I almost get to crying when I talk about it, but didn't no preacher come see me, and didn't no deacons visit me, or didn't no visitation team come see me. I just told her, I said, "I know what I got to do, and I'm going to church, and I want you to go." And that's when we started. Yes, sir. And that was being like I was 42. Gotcha. So I'm 77, so that's what, 25 years ago. Yes, sir. Something like that. And so anyway, since then, like I say, you know, until the COVID hit, I probably had about as close to an perfect attendance record as you can get. And I've been, held different about any position in the church. You know, except with deacon, you know, I don't even need to say that, I guess, but some of the times, you know, that some of the Baptists, some of their beliefs is that, you know, if you have ever been married before, that, you know, part of the qualifications for deacon, let me just turn this down.
Hold on, we'll just, no, it's good.
I'll just go ahead and turn this off. We can. But anyway, like I said, I've held about every position to being in the church, and that's, I've, you know, experienced some supernatural things with the Lord. I really have. No doubt. So that was that part. I don't know if we finish up, like I said. Then, like I said, and then again, the Lord, like I said, He spoke to me, and that'd probably be too long a story. Spoke to me real strong about putting that cross up. Yeah.
Hey, we're sitting here talking with Mr. Doug Bailey. We'll take a quick break, and we're gonna be right back with him. Y'all hang with us.
Let me be free.
There's a Can-Am waiting for you at Myers Equipment and Supply, 301 North Jefferson in Dublin.
All right, boys, if you want to go to college, you have to clear out another one of these.
What if we told you there was a better way to save for your kids' college than pickle jars? Morris Bank's Savings Builder account and Moolah makes saving for your kids' college easier than ever. All you have to do is connect the account to your debit card, where it automatically rounds up your purchases to the nearest dollar, depositing that spare change into a Moolah account where it will grow into a nice little nest egg for whatever your kids have their sights set on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sitting here still, of course, we got Mr. Doug Bailey in the house today. Well, let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about that cross, Mr. Doug. So, I mean, that's such a strong ministry right there.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are passing that and seeing that. So, you know, you talk about such a strong relationship with the Lord. So when did that cross get put up?
It's been about 30 years.
Okay.
I was trying to calculate the time and pinpoint the time myself, and I know, like I say, I had that store for a year, and then I had the store to opportunity to open the store there in Dublin, and it done real well for us, and I was just leasing it. Just kind of really a month-to-month thing. He just said, well, you can stay as long as you want to stay. And I said, well, long as I said, I ain't going to let it bankrupt me now. I said, I done bought this and I done put up everything I got. I got to make sure this one goes. If that don't, if I see that ain't going to work, then I'm going to just have to go. But I want it to work if it will. And so I know I was down there 7 years, and I remember taking down, at some point, there was an old white spot sign down there that had the poles and all. Anyway, I remember taking them poles down. So I'm just guessing somewhere in that range. Like I said, we was there for 34 years.
Right.
I'm gonna say that cross has been, and I've redone it. You know, some of the severe weather, you know, knocked part of it down at times, but I've redone it a couple of times. But actually, the guy that done that thing, he's passed away now. Mr. Wyatt. Richard's his son. I'm trying to think of his. I can't think of Mr. Wyatt's first name. But
Gotcha, Mr. Wyatt.
He actually hand painted that sign, and that made it look just like it with the perfect letters. You see that it's all that stencil. But he actually hand painted that thing, and it looked just like it looks now as far as that cross itself. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So let's talk. You know, let's give us a little bit, I guess, of the story of how that thing got put up.
Yeah. Like I said, you know, I had prayed, and you know, I had put that on some hats. Okay.
Gotcha.
I mean, the same thing that Jesus is coming soon.
Yes, sir.
And T-shirts and whatever, the sweatshirts and a variety of things. That did a bunch of different hats over the years. But anyway, so that's what happened. I guess probably I'm supposed to tell this part since you kind of told me to. Is what really happened. So when I talk about being really involved in church, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one Sunday, our pastor was going to do he had a, what they call it, he was a reunion. And they had asked him, I'm trying to think of what they call it. He was going to be out of the pulpit. And one of the deacons asked me, which I'd been back in the church, and I would like to say I was really on fire for the Lord.
Right.
So he asked me, he said, would you like to speak for us Sunday? The pastor's going to be gone. And I said, I don't know. Let me pray about that.
Yeah.
So I come back to him, and I prayed, and the Lord said, yeah, that's what I got for you to do. Do it. And so the little church we had was, I mean, we probably run about 100, and it would probably run about 100 in Sunday school. But anyway, the short of it, so when they asked me to speak, and then I began to ask what the Lord had me to do, and you know, what we did was nothing wrong with it, but it was very routine. You know, we had the service, and we had the first part of it, and had the song part, and what we sang, and taking up the offering, and he started preaching at 11:30, and then he preached at 12 o'clock, and we would do one verse of Just As I Am, and if nobody came, and basically there was no altar call. Nobody really came to the altar at that time. I mean, that's just where the spiritual maturity as individuals, it also is well with churches, and that's just what you didn't see that there.
Sure.
And anyway, we just so when they had me to come do it, so I started, actually it was a quarter when I had probably invited. I had a lot of people tell me, man, I tell you what, when they knew I done what he done, you know, he done quit all that drinking and all that stuff. He done about face. But they told me, well, you know, if you ever start doing it and speaking or whatever, you let me know, so I sure want to hear it. And I said, okay, I probably invited 50 or 60 people.
Cool,
I'm going to say 40 people probably came that never did come,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
that honored what they said they would do.
Right.
And I mean, the church, man, they were just overwhelmed. That, you know, I mean, that church was packed out.
Wow.
You know, it wouldn't hold about between 125 and 150,
Sure.
but there wasn't no room, you know. And so anyway, so I spoke, and I didn't start till 11:45.
Gotcha.
And I got through at 1 o'clock.
Gotcha.
Nobody, I ain't saying it's me now.
No,
Please don't
yeah, yeah.
understand that. It was just a God thing.
For
I
sure.
just said, I've just got to do what the Lord has me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and that was it. I mean, just a powerful service. So we came back that night, and he was back, and he'd done the routine service, you know. And then when he done the invitation, the Lord said, just come to the altar. I want to talk to you. And so, and I did, and I went, and it seemed like all I could do was just pray and just thank the Lord, and just feel like it had been really intense on me trying to prepare for all this stuff and wondering if I'd said too much or not enough or whatever.
Right.
And so I went to the altar, and I came back, and I came back to my seat, and so he called on me to do the benediction. And I just, you know, started out kind of like just to do a benediction. And I've never had that happen before or since.
Right.
And I started, and then the Lord just took over. And I was clapping my hands real loud. And I remember saying, I mean, God just, I was just the mouthpiece. The Lord, he
Sure,
said, listen,
right.
listen. And I said that, and so then my wife, she was sitting there, and she grabbed me by the arm, and she was saying, say amen, say amen. And God just kept talking till he got through. And so when he did, then I guess really I had been embarrassed her. I probably embarrassed myself. I won't say I embarrassed myself, because I feel like I'd done what God
Right.
just took over.
Right.
So we just immediately left. And we didn't spend no time shaking hands or whatever and all. You know, we'd said there was at that time there was a yogurt shop that was out there at one of the ends where the Home Depot's at.
Gotcha.
And we said we was going to go get a yogurt. And so we backed out. I'm just saying, you probably don't remember exactly where the church was. We backed out of the church, and we started headed towards town. We started headed to church. Do you know where New Bethel Church is at? It's right there past the interstate on 257,
Okay.
headed towards
Yes,
Dexter.
sir.
That church
Yes,
right
sir.
there, that
I
brick
got
church.
you. Yes, sir.
And then I just began, when we got back, I began to pray, and I said, Lord, I guess I probably embarrassed her. I don't think I feel like I've done what you wanted me to do,
Right.
you know. And when he said that, then he said, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You've done exactly what I wanted you to do. And when I said that, we was along there about where the old Barney's is closed now. And I looked, and I seen something like a little flicker of lightning. And I thought, well, was that lightning? And then it seemed like a big flash of lightning, you know, like it just kind of lights the sky up, not necessarily the street. And again, a God thing.
Right.
I said, look yonder, that's God talking. She said, I don't know what's wrong with you. She said, that ain't nothing but a cloud. And when she said that, God just formed a cloud, just like you see the white puffy cloud. And he put it looked like 200 foot, it didn't block it, 200 foot in front of the car, and maybe like a couple of hundred. It was very visible.
Right.
A big cloud, you know how the God moved through clouds back in the days with Moses
Right,
and all
yes,
that. And he would just take lightning and light it up. And he would just light it up. And we left right there, come all the way into the Friendly Gus at Dublin there, turned right there, he turned right there, went down to the hospital, and he turned back to the right, and he kept that cloud just right in front of us with just lightning would just flash through it. All the way over till we got to the yogurt shop. And when we got there, I said, well, let's get a yogurt. And well, after them words about, you know, was wondering about, I'm just saying about it was just a cloud. There was no more conversation to when he put that cloud up there. I mean, there's never been a time, and I've been in some crowds of 10,000 at a Carmen concert. I've been in some big crowds, and I've been in some small crowds, but I've never felt a presence of the Lord any stronger.
Wow.
With just that one thing, because
Right.
that was a supernatural thing.
Yes, sir.
And anyway, so we got it. I said, well, let's get a yogurt. She said, I don't want that. I said, you don't want a yogurt? No. I said, well, we're here, I'm going to get me one. So I went in and got me a yogurt, come back out, and I was coming across the parking lot. When I come back out, I kind of began to start looking around for the cloud or whatever. I mean, it was just black. And as I come across it, looked like the parking lot, that big parking lot there where the Home Depot was, it looked like it beginning to lighten up. And by the time I turned on to the highway right there, right before the red light, he popped that same cloud right back up in the same kind of way. And he would just he would just flash lightning through it. And we lived, so we went there, and everywhere we turned out the hospital, went out there for any Gus at the nursing home, turned right there, and went all the way home out 257 past Love's. But that cloud preceded us till I pulled in my back door. Wow. And so when we got out, and I was just, it was the presence of the Lord. It was the power of the Spirit on me so strong. I know what it was now, but I didn't know yet how nervous I was for no good reason except, and he just said, get out, I ain't through talking to you yet. And I told her, so I'm going to just kind of get out and walk some. It's kind of somewhat of a moonlight night. And so she said, I asked my daughter, she said, don't go nowhere. I don't know if she thought the Lord was going to take me away or what. She said, don't go nowhere. And I said, well, I just feel like I need to get out and talk to the Lord. I said, I'll be fine. And she said, well, seeing that was my daughter, she said, why don't you go with me? She said, I don't want to go. So anyway, where I live, my driveway, when I walk out my driveway, when I get out, I'm about 3/4 of a mile off 257. And that road runs in like an east-west parallel, right?
Gotcha.
And when I walked up about 600 foot in my driveway and I turned to the left, when I did on the horizon, where he said he's going to step out on the cloud,
yes, sir,
in the eastern sky, and with the sound of trouble, he's going to call his children home. Now, that's what I believe. Everybody might not believe. That's what I believe.
Right.
He popped that same way back on the horizon, not a cloud in the sky. I'm just saying. And I walked up down that road until I got tired, probably 3 hours.
Gotcha.
Talking to the Lord and allowing the Lord to talk to me. And I said, well, God, you know I'm tired, and I said, I feel like I'm going in. I said, but I know you ain't doing all this for no good reason.
Right.
What you got for me in this? And so at that time, like I'm saying, I was relatively young in the Lord, and still, because I hadn't been back serving the Lord 2 or 3 years, whatever the time frame might have been. But there's 2 things he said to me. He said, my word, you can believe it, cover to cover. There ain't no contradictions, and you're going to have the opportunity to learn. Just know that it's true 100% cover to cover. And the second thing, he said, you will witness my return. I believe, and if you hear about me dying, you just say, well, he got that part wrong, because I don't know if it's going to be before the sun goes down today. I might be 110 years old, and it may not happen that way, but if I didn't miss God, I believe I'm going to live to see his return.
Right.
I believe it's that close. It's why I even prayed about, should I come down here or not? They said, God said, yeah, I would have you go. I said, I don't want to, my main purpose for coming today,
yes, sir,
not to glorify me in no kind of way, but to glorify the Lord.
No
I'm
doubt.
just saying, we know we serve a supernatural God that, he's done it all, he's spoken into existence, and we go from there. We serve a God that is fair, that is just, that is perfect, had never made no mistakes, and ain't gonna make none. But I believe from what I have read and learned and grown, and I listen to TBN a lot, I listen to some of the deeper stuff of the Lord. I've experienced some deeper stuff of the Lord.
Right.
And I'm just convinced that the time is short. But he said, no man knows the day or the hour, not
That's
even
right.
Jesus himself.
Yeah.
He's going to turn to him and say, time is go get my children.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of, so that right there, then I didn't have to, when I said that, when God been talking to me about a cross,
Right.
he began to talk about, I wanted 35 foot wide, I think it's 35 foot wide, 35 foot tall, and he gave me the dimensions, just like he said to Noah about, I ain't trying to compare myself to him, I'm just saying, but he told Noah what to build, how to build a boat. And I'm just saying to me, so I didn't have no clue about, I was content with seeing it on a hat, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And I've had numerous people, quite a few people. I've hardly had no negative comments about that. I reckon, and I just know that I know that's what God would have me to do, and I've done it. And I don't talk about the expense of it. That's even immaterial. And I just say beyond that, he really has blessed me beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. From when I didn't know the Lord, and I was, working for Winn-Dixie and burning the candle at both ends and trying to do everything I could to make money. And, I survived and done okay, but I'm just saying, when you're living under a curse, you're going to be limited on what you're going to be able to acquire. Not to say that once you come to the Lord, that'd be the end. Your problems is gone.
No,
he don't say that at all. He
No,
don't say that at all.
right.
We'll have to go through things just like anybody else.
That's
It
right.
rains on the just and the unjust. But that's kind of, that's kind of the deal about the cross.
Got you.
So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, we're sitting here talking with Mr. Doug Bailey. We'll take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with him. Y'all hang with us.
Hi, I'm Andy Cullins at Cullins Supply. Cullen Supply is proud to be your Bobcat small equipment dealer. When paths need clearing, buildings need raising, loads need moving, acres needs tending, or anything on your to-do list needs getting done, that's where we come in. Bobcat makes the best equipment to complete the toughest jobs imaginable. Come see the full lineup of Bobcat compact equipment at Cullen Supply and Engine Service, located at 910 East Jackson Street in Dublin or 826 South Harris Street in Sandersville.
You've dreamed about the perfect house, a place to call your own, and a place to not only stretch out, but to grow. Auto Owners protects your house because to you, it's home. That's simple human sense.
Ask Curry Maffett Insurance in Dublin if Auto Owners make sense for you.
Happy to help, man. I was just over there talking to myself anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sitting here still, of course, we got Mr. Doug Bailey in the house today. So, you know, the Cross being there 30 years, how have you seen, you know, it's a great ministry. How have you seen anybody, you know, come to the Lord through that? Do you have any stories about that Cross being there 30 years?
I'm trying to think of a couple. I've had 2 or 3 different ones, and I know there's probably one guy that comes to my mind. And matter of fact, I talked with him about the store, and we almost sold the store to him, but that's just what the Lord had.
Right.
Dave Harper.
Gotcha.
You know Dave Harper?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's been, but he made the comment to me. He said, well, you know that. He said, when I didn't know the Lord. He said, when I seen that thing, he said, that's got to be the biggest idiot I've ever seen. He said, I ain't never seen nobody stupid enough or whatever. He didn't have no good attitude
right.
about it. But he just told me, he said, but he acknowledged it to me. He said, you know, when I've come to the Lord since, and you know, I don't know if you do Facebook or not, but he's all the time got stuff on Facebook about the Lord. You know,
awesome.
he's been very blessed with what he does. You know, and
yes.
You know, he bought the Cloverleaf, and he owns the Cloverleaf.
Cool.
He bought the Country Buffet, and me and him talked about, like I said, just what the Lord had. And but I'm just saying, he's one that comes to my mind that really is. He puts a lot of stuff on there, and I'm convinced he knows the Lord. You know, and then of course I've had several other ones, and you know I've had people like I said, just hadn't been nothing negative. I reckon it was probably. One thing I reckon, if that was negative, and I don't really think that was negative, but I had this lady coming in and shopping all the time, and then she had a little boy with her, and her son, he was maybe like 7, 8 years old, and she said, she told me, she said, you need to take that cross now. I said, why? She said, you're scaring people. I said, well, if it's scaring you, you'll have to deal with that.
Right.
And she said, my little boy, she said, my little boy asked me, she said, Mama, I know it's about to be Christmas, and is Jesus coming? Am I going to still get my bicycle? She said, yeah, you'll get it. And I reckon that's probably about the closest thing I've heard to negative about it. And I've seen a lot of people out there actually doing videos of it and taking pictures of it and just different stuff like that. But like I say, I'm convinced, I could several different ones that I know that have told me that, you know, that it really ministered to them, and that was the first time they seen it, you know, and it really caused them to want to come to the Lord. I guess, you know, God can speak. Obviously, the Lord can speak through something like that. Yeah. But he had, so it's been a positive thing, and I'm convinced, and I would just hope that, you know, like I say, we just. I'm convinced, you know, that this thing about heaven and hell is real, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've said, I've learned enough of the Word, and I've heard enough preaching, and been to enough Sunday school classes, and listened to enough you know, stuff on TV or whatever, to know that I'm just convinced, you know, that it's just like we say it is. I'm just saying that, you know, there's going to come that day, like we was talking about earlier about the bodies, you know. God didn't tell us this body was going to last forever. When I was saying about wanting to retire, you know, that you begin to have these ailments and some touch of arthritis and some different things, and you don't think that'll happen to you. And you look as a young man and see these old people, and you think, well, man, he just, you know, I think he's just putting on, you know. But but he told us these bodies will wear out. I was thinking about, you know, probably the greatest example of Jesus in my mind that we know in our time would be Billy Graham, and how God used Billy Graham. I mean, you know, if you're a Christian, you know how Billy Graham does some awesome things. God used him in a powerful way. Hey, but there come a day that he got old, and you know, in the very last years, you know, he wasn't able to preach, he wasn't able to teach, he wasn't able to do anything. I guess he stayed the amount of time God had for him to stay. But just talking to different people, and some of the people I work at church, he's got that place in North Carolina. You know, he's got a thing up there on the mountains, and it's just. It just said it's just God is just still all over that place, you know, with everything they have going on between his son, you know, Franklin.
Yes,
he's got that Samaritan ministry and his daughters and whatever. But I'm just saying, you know, Rick, the point I was trying to make was the fact that, you know, Billy Graham got old, you know what I mean?
Yes,
but all of us going to get a glorified body one day.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
For sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to go. The only reason I would not want to go now, I feel like the timing ain't right. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a lot of people I love to see come to the Lord within my own family.
Right.
And we'll see everybody come. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
I reckon, you know, we go to church at Baker. I would just put in a little plug for Baker. And, you know, Joey went down there. It's a little country church out in nowhere, out of Rents, 3 or 4 miles.
Gotcha.
And he went. He said there was 18 people voted for him to come. And make a long story short, he told me he'd seen over 500. He'd baptized over 500 there.
Wow.
Started churches in, and we started a church in Africa now. They were there, and we support that. They've I think it's 40 something. I think 49 churches that we started in Africa.
That's amazing.
And Mexico. He's started 5 churches there, and he's took mission trips to India. That's new. Right now, he's actually gone to Colorado. We've got 5 churches there that we started, actually kind of what we call home churches.
Yep.
And he's out there. He's out there right now. And so he's very mission oriented. You know, we started that wild game supper. They started, I think it's 13 or 14 years ago.
Okay.
You know, they started with the 30 men and had the wild game supper. And after I say from 10 or 12 years, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had as many as 1,500. Hadn't had it for the last 2 years,
right?
Because of COVID. COVID wouldn't allow it, but so I think it's in our plans to have it this coming
Awesome.
year. But I can, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people can too. You can just feel the Lord. You know, the guys really put forth a strong effort to make that thing happen. To have 1,500 men down there, you know, all that stuff, and we have like anything that swims or flies or walks or crawls.
Right.
We'll have the alligators, and we got cooked like 30 rattlesnakes, 700 quail, and rabbits and squirrels and coons and possums and beavers and bear and elk and deer
Whatever.
and wild hog, about anything you can imagine.
Yes, sir.
We'll have it. We'll have that. We'll start on Sunday night preparing for it. Then we'll have the men that'll come, you know, getting it up, setting it up to have it, you know, to seat all them people, you know, putting up the tents and everything we'll have to do. But it's just that's been a powerful thing. You know, I feel like, and they've had several people come to the Lord through that ministry for sure.
For sure.
And but it's been like I said, it's a lot of work, but it's a fun thing. You know, we'll have probably 50 or 60 men that'll start Thursday morning at 6 o'clock cooking, and we'll cook all day long. And you know, if you're gonna feed 1,500 men, you know what I mean, and we'll have 8 lines going through that. We've got that thing that probably down to a science and say, well, we could do this a little better. Maybe we could do that a little better. And we would have as many as 8 lines going through there. You know, and that way, when they're done that, we'd feed them. We'll have everything set up to tell you what everything is, with the little notes down there that saying frog. You know, frog legs was another big thing we'd have. You know, we could probably feed the majority of them in about 45 minutes.
Wow.
That's pretty with 8 lines coming through that, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good, brother.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Mr. Doug Bailey. We're going to come back with him. Y'all hang with us.
It's that time of year when we come together to support our teams. And our team here at Dublin Chevy Buick GMC is here to support you.
Down here at Dublin Chevrolet, where we're putting dreams in driveways.
Go, let's get out there.
Whether it's helping you with your next purchase or just servicing your current vehicle.
Yes, Miss Thomas, we've got your Traverse booked for next week.
North and south!
And remember, support your local team. You know the rest.
Hi, I'm Kyle Gerard with A+ Flooring and Construction. We're in our showroom, and I want to show you some of the new products that we have. We have a complete line of ceramic tile from Premier Tile. We also have the new Chesapeake LVP display, as well as a lot of our shawl carpet displays. We'd love for you to come down and shop with us here at A+ Flooring and Construction. A couple new things that we have a brand new complete line of cabinets. We also have our new metal roof distributor for metal roofs here in town, as well as shingle roofs. We can supply all your needs at A+ Flooring and Construction. So come see us at 371 Georgia Highway 338, or give us a call at 478-676-2662.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Still sitting here, we got Mr. Doug in the house today. You know, Mr. Doug, originally we were planning on doing this thing for Labor Day, and you know, Labor Day's passed, we're a little late on that one, but we were trying to get in for Labor Day, and I was like, you know, hard workers. You know, me, I'm thinking Mr. Doug Bailey. So I mean, talk about that and that hard work, because you're a self-made guy.
Yeah. Okay, I guess maybe we began with Winn-Dixie. I guess a lot of my life I'd never heard, you know, I'd probably heard more discouragement than I had encouragement. But
Right.
kind of the short of it is, like I said, I went to work, and I was 18 years old, and I worked for about a year, and they made me a produce manager. And so then I'd done that for a year, then I had to go in the military, went in the military, actually joined the National Guard, was gone 6 months and came back. But anyway, I'm just saying, back then, Winn-Dixie, I would say that about them, but they was a company that if you was willing to work and hustle and do what they said do, you could move up, you know, and that was kind of that was just their basic thing, and that's that's what I was able to do. So like I said, and then it was you just didn't make store manager that quick. You just didn't. That's just the way it was. But anyway, like I said, I guess I was 19 when I went to work with them, but I made store manager when I was 25. But I'm just saying, you know, a lot of them would say, I don't know, after I made store manager and that store, I took that store over and it was doing like $15,000 a week. 3 years later, it was doing $70,000 a week, and we had actually. So I reckon, and all that was just like I just believed in everything they said do. I'd done it, and then a lot of them they would come in and the supervisor, we'd have a store managers meeting every Tuesday.
Gotcha.
And before we all but it was a half day having a meeting, and they would come in. Well, here comes the Mayor Thompson, and I said, well, you know, whatever the company tells me to do, you can call it. What's the bad word I'm trying to think, you know, being a butt kisser or however you want to say it. Sure. I said, you can say whatever you want to say. I said, to me, you're working against yourself if you're trying to, if the company's telling you what you need to do to be able to do. So and that was all about performance, productivity, and numbers.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see the same thing now. What happens in baseball or football? Who makes the money? You know what I'm trying to say? The man that can produce. You know, and it's all about productivity. It was the same with them, and I admired them for that. But if a man wanted to, he could move. And then I was already, you know, when I had done it, and I had that store for 150 stores in that territory.
Gotcha.
And so they had operated what they call the top 10 store managers list. And in 6 months' time, the supervisor come to me with the numbers I'd produced in 6 months with me and my people. But I'm just saying, man, I was gung-ho. And my wife, that was part of the reason we probably went through that divorce. She said, all you want to do is work, you know. And she said, if you ain't working, then you're trying to figure out what you can do. And she was right. She was. Right. I really did. I probably worked 80 and 90 hours a week to get them kind of numbers to work, you know. And so anyway, they come talk to me and said, he said, well, you made the top 10 store managers list, and that's where they promoted people to the warehouse, and they would put them through a position too, and they'd send them out as a supervisor. Instead of being over one store, you'd be over 10. And if you've done a real good job being over 10, they had what they call a general supervisor, and they'd put you over about 40 stores. And then if you've done real good at that, they would have what they call a ROS, a retail operations superintendent, and they'd put you over, and so they had like 9 divisions. And I ain't saying that it took something to climb that ladder, but I'm just saying they promoted them people, one word, I'm just based on performance. And when you perform, you know, they moved you up, and they were really good to you. So anyway, about the hard work, and I guess that's kind of where I got my ethic of the hard work, because seeing what Winn-Dixie had done for me, you know, like I'm saying with the Gus, you know, when I thought that's all I'd ever do. I was crushed, you know, when they said, well, you know, you just we're closing this store in Dublin, and we got a job in Atlanta. And there I was, I just remarried, we'd remodel the house, and man, I was just crushed. I thought that's all I'd ever do. So like I'm saying, I went from making that kind of money with all them benefits to nothing, you know, and then Gus worked me right back up. And so I believe hard work pays off.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Mr. Doug, thank you for coming in today. And, you know, more important than the hard work and stuff, it's great to get your salvation story out there and the story of that cross, because, I mean, a lot of people may not realize that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming in, Mr. Doug. So glad to get to talk to you. Haven't got to talk to you in a while. So.
Yeah, right. I guess I'm glad I, you know, realized who you, like I said, I remember Jason real well.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he's he's with the Fellowship of Christian
Yes,
Athletes.
sir. Yes, sir. He is.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yes, sir. No doubt. So, yeah. So, Mr. Doug, thank you so much, y'all.
Okay.
Watching TV 35, we just talked to Mr. Doug Bailey. Thank you for tuning in.